Well, hey now, welcome back to Over the Top. This is EFED News with your host, the Sauce Boss, and my special guest host, back for the third day in a row, the handler of Chris Page. Chris, how we doing today?
I am better than a hand job, sir. How about you?
Well, I can't complain. It's I don't know what day of the week it is for folks that are listening, but if I was any happier, I don't know what I would do with myself. I'm trying to think of a good old fashioned Southern saying about I'm happier than a dog with two tails, or
Happier to
happy.
pig and shit.
That's the one. That's the one I was thinking of. Well, hey, we still have a ton of EFED news to get to. We didn't get all of it yesterday, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to get right into it. So, without
Yep.
further ado, let's go. Right now in EFEDing, as in real life, we are in the middle of pay-per-view season. And what that means is we're getting Elimination Chamber, we're getting AEW Revolution, we're getting Ring of Honor Final Battle. I think that's what it's called. Everybody's doing these pay-per-views now. And it's because of timing, right? Because you've got, you reset your storylines January 1st. And it takes a 3-month build to get to your first pay-per-view, and here we are, 3 months in. And now you're starting to see all these pay-per-views in EFEDs as well. So it's art imitating life, imitating art. Well, I forget how many iterations of that there is, but you get the idea. So we're in the middle of pay-per-view season, and we're seeing stuff from Wrestlewars, from WGWF. We're seeing stuff from all the other big feds, and I don't know what the big show is that's coming up right now. I guess let's just go ahead and we'll pitch Wrestlewars. So WGWF has got Wrestlewars coming up. It's the WrestleMania event of the show, and Chris, you're involved in that. So why don't you just go ahead and pitch what the main event is there?
It's Peter Vaughn and Mark Cross for the world title. Those cats are well known. They've got solid reps for being incredible writers. They won the West Coast Rumble in January. Cross was the runner-up. So the belt was on the line. So the story was that while Cross finished second, you actually proved. Actually, the basis was anybody can win a Rumble. That doesn't prove that you're the best. Now that Vaughn, you've got the belt. Well, now you got to prove that you can beat this man, and you'll have to do it at Wrestlewars. So it's pretty much stage set. And those cats are going to deliver heavy blows, I would imagine.
So the underlying story of that match, of course, you have the Rumble there. You have 1 and 2 in the Rumble getting a shot at each other. But now you've got the added layer of a faction war is brewing between Chris Page's CCPE, the Enterprise, not a faction, not a stable, an enterprise, an LLC.
We'll see.
And you've got Mark Cross and Saga. That's Theo Price's 100% stable faction, non-enterprise. It is a partnership, which I'm involved in as well. But that's what we're starting to see here. And the last couple weeks on Twitter, for folks who've been watching, there's been a heavy recruitment push between both factions. And to be honest, Chris, you have recruited with such rapid fury that I can't even name all the folks that you brought in. But I'd be happy to share the ones that Saga have brought in. So I'll let you go first. Go ahead and brag a little bit about about the new additions to your team.
There's nothing to brag about. 2023, the recruiting class is closed. We're happy with what we have, and they're gonna continue to move forward. Now, I do want to say this, like the Saga and CCPE angle. I don't have a whole lot to do with that. That's really you guys that within that's working the angles together. I think that's good to see. I didn't know that Mark Cross was going to be a Saga member. I didn't know that until like a week before I think you unveiled it. So it was held real close to the vest, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it does enhance that part of the story. So it's good to see. Now we picked up Ken Davidson, we picked up Goth and Miss Melissa, the Ramseys. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna miss somebody here.
Campaign.
We got Kim Payne, Lucy Wilde, Regan,
Rogan McLean.
Rogan McLean.
Uh-huh.
And I hope that's it. We may got a couple more out there. We haven't lost anybody else. Like that's the thing. We're not looking for anyone else at this point. Like I really feel like the first year was solid, and that was with the writing of the handlers. I hope that we can enhance it a little bit with the introductions of new characters and see what happens. I'm very interested to see what happens with the saga. To be truthfully honest, because again, I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know that the tease is out there that there may be a couple of more people that are going to be signing on. I can only speculate, just like anybody else can. So I'm looking forward to seeing that unfold and that layer unfold, and if the guys in CCPE do decide to maybe advance and create a little havoc and a little chaos, but that's their call to make.
Yeah, so what's interesting here is that the CCPE has a bit of that NWO feel to it, right? Like they came in, they took over, and they're unbeatable. And they basically said, if you think you can beat us, then step up and improve it. And that's what happened with the CCPE versus the world competition. People did step up. They proved that they did not have what it takes to take down CCPE in their current in their current form. So now what you're starting to see are these pockets of resistance rise up, and Saga being the first one. A third faction I've heard is in the works, but you've got these other groups saying, well, they can do it, why can't we do it too? And that's what's interesting about that, is that it's a multi-federational story, which includes basically everybody in EFEDing, because you don't have to pick a side, but if you want to, you certainly could. You could jump on board with one of these teams, and we've been given this promise at the end of the year that, well, I don't know if it's a promise, it's a challenge at the end of the year, that CCPE versus the world again, whether that is CCPE versus Saga or CCPE versus a collective of smaller groups. It's an interesting running story, right? It's something that is told by the handlers that are involved. So guys like Peter Vaughn and Mark Cross. Chris, you do a show with Theo on the Over the Top Network, and the two of you are the executives of your groups, and you both talk very often, right? So it's interesting that we have it's a very incestual relationship between all the folks that are involved, and sometimes a family war can be the most intense.
Well, it really is while Theo. We don't talk daily. We'll DM maybe daily, and we'll talk when we need to, when we do the show. But we don't really go into detail about the saga, because he knows that I want to be surprised too. I don't I don't want to know everything that goes on. I got lucky and put together Thad. That was just a by luck and by coincidence that things just lined up when they lined up.
How fun was that story, though? Like, that was a plot twist.
I turned it into fun, you know what I mean? Like, on my side of the coin, when I got confirmation that I was right, I was like, ooh, wait a minute now. I can turn this into a little story. And I think we did it for CCPE versus the world. The role play that I did was as we have a rat. And I think that may have been a contributing factor to why I was able to go over on keto. Is because I think the story was strong. but it was really fun. It was good to do, and then the reveal happened, and we haven't gotten the end of that. There's still a piece of that to be told. It's just a matter of where is it going to be told at.
Right. So that's the fun part of the story, right? Because everybody's waiting for the next shoe to drop. And what we've seen, CCPE, they lost Thad. They replaced him. Thad who at this point? Now, Saga started as a group of three wrestlers, Ryan Keto, Jason Cash, and Ned K. They were being managed by Theo Price, and what we've seen since that time is Thaddeus Duke came over and joined the club. We've seen Buster Gloves from WGWF join the club, bringing them into a second federation. We've seen Lexi Gold most recently join at the Denzel Porter Invitational, and we've seen Mark Cross join, who has been through Sin City and also WGWF. So now you're starting to see other people trickle in. It's like, okay, they actually got some folks over there. And it makes you wonder, well, where is this thing going? If you use the analogy of the NWO, now you've got the world team to oppose them. You've got Sting and Luger and all those other guys. If you grew up during that time of wrestling, that Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, you can feel some of the same vibes, and it's a lot of fun. It has to be super boring to be the NWO and have nobody to oppose you, right? It seems like a lot more fun when you can take down the heroes and still be bad. So that's been fun to watch so far. Now, this third faction, which I've heard murmurings about, I'm still waiting for that to happen. So I've heard some things behind the scenes, but I don't know how true they are. So
I've heard some things too.
yeah,
I've heard some rumblings out there. We'll see.
Yeah.
See.
And it's
wish
not
them best. I wish you both the very best of luck.
That's right. And it's not limited to the XWF or the WGWF. This could be any federation because we've got folks. I mean, everybody works in more than one Fed, it seems like now. I know Lexi Gold is in 7 or 8 Feds right now. So you can see this thing kind of snowballing in many different directions. It would be great to see people who aren't involved become involved. So, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. I've heard a rumor. A little birdie told me that our friends over at Level Up Wrestling are getting the team back together. They're going to be putting out some results here in the next few weeks, and they're going to be up and running again. So that's great news to hear. Anytime a Fed gets back on their feet, we talked about PWV coming back, and I'm sure there will be others that find the resources to get up and running again. It would be great to see that. So for the folks over at Level Up, I don't think that the staff listens to our material, but I know that there are people that work there and work other places. We're rooting for them. I hope that they're able to get it up and going again.
Had a good product. It's a shame that it went down when it went down. But again, like I said with Valor, it's kind of with any Fed, it's a wait and see. I hope that the content's there. I hope that they get a roster together that comes back and are able to get back to business as usual. Contrary to popular belief, I don't hate anybody. And I kind of want everybody to be successful. Whether I follow their product or I don't, because it's all about fun. If you're having fun, that's all that matters. Continue to have fun in whatever space you need to have fun in.
Yeah, a lot of those folks have been active in the UGWC and in PWE and some other places. So it's just a matter of collectively getting back together again and saying, all right, we're gonna commit to this schedule and this format, and we're gonna go. So hopefully they can do that. I'm rooting for them. All right, so next I want to jump into the hot topic of the week. Maybe it's just a hot topic for me, but I think it's a topic that everybody has an opinion on. And what I'm talking about are divisions in wrestling, specifically men's and women's divisions. So there are messages, there were tweets this week about, and I don't know if I want to name drop on who's tweeting, because that's not the point of this, right? I'm not trying to say that anybody's right or wrong, but the question was brought up: in 2023, is it acceptable to have separate divisions for men and women in an EFED? My opinion is yes. Anything is acceptable in an EFED. If you want to have a kangaroo in your federation, fine. If you want to wrestle on the moon, that's fine. If you want to have separate divisions for weight classes, if you want to have separate divisions for age groups, if you want to have separate divisions for men and women, I think that's fine, as long as you have the roster that can support that. If you have a small roster, it makes more sense to consolidate everybody into one group. But if you have a big roster, why not have a women's belt and a men's belt? That way you're saying, this is our top guy, and also this is our top girl, and they're both the top of the company, just in separate divisions. You don't just have to have one number one. You can have multiple, like the UFC does, right? I mean, you tell me, what's the top belt in the UFC? I don't think there's an answer for that. It's not the heavyweight belt, because, it just never really has been. It's been whoever's been the most talented division at the time. Chris, chime in here. Save me.
I don't think there's anything to save you from, because I think you make very valid points. I don't know where the initial conversation comes from. I feel like, there's room for just about anything. WGWF, I don't abide by that. I put, men versus women in matches, unless the handlers specifically request otherwise. I don't want to be in a ring with men. Okay, well then I've got female talent, and we'll work something and make something happen, right? But I don't oppose the idea either. It's really about preference. If you're handling a female character, or you are a female and you're handling a female character, do you want to compete against men or not? If you don't, well then there's a plethora of federations out there that provide you the option to strictly deal with a women's division. There are federations out there that give you the option to do intergender. It's really about personal preference. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a label either. It's really comes down to the federation and the members within it. Do the members want a female division? Do they want just a strictly a women's champion? If the answer is yes, well then you probably need to do that. If the answer is no, then you probably need to do that. Put it out there to your roster, because they're the ones that are ultimately role playing. So I would hope that whoever sent the tweet, that it came from within the federation itself, or was it just a general thrown out there for a conversation piece?
I know that there are women's only EFEDs, right?
Sure.
And that's fine. Whatever. I don't know of any men's only EFEDs. If there were any, I wouldn't have any problem with that either. If you look at the example of in real life sports, you've got the WWE, which is the benchmark for all wrestling. It's the measuring stick for what everybody else does. They will not do intergender matches. It's one of the unwritten rules of WWE. Men do not hit women. Because it's bad for marketing, it's a bad look. It's their PG product just doesn't support that type of sport. And you see the same thing in AEW with separate divisions. You see the same thing in IGWP, New Japan, separate divisions. And that's great because it's a different product. The men's product and the women's product is different. It's really difficult to have. I mean, because of the body size differences and because of the dimensions of the ring, just the women's product is a different product. Now, that doesn't mean that it's lesser in any way. It's just different. So, specifically, if you look at what they're doing in Japan right now, the women's product in Japan is so good. It's much, much better than women's wrestling in the United States because of their willingness because of their technical prowess. I should put it that way. It's a little bit different in the States, but in the States, they've made quite a bit of progress. It's been encouraging to see quite a bit of progress. There are always going to be people who question whether or not it's on the level with
real wrestling right now. There are females on in the WWE and in AEW that can mop the floor with some of the male talent, if given the opportunity. They're legitimately better athletes all the way around.
Sure.
And the same thing can be said for Stardom. There are female talents that if you put them in the ring with a male talent, they can deliver a banger and can get over massively in the process. So I don't want to ignore that fact while we're talking about this, right? Like the talent is there. It's just all about the execution of it. But in the game of EFEDing, end of the day, it's just a personal preference. What do you want to see? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's like meant to debate. I feel like that this was a bait tweet to begin with.
Well, it is, right? And the response was, well, no, this was an in-character post. This is what my character would say. But you know that it's also an out-of-character post because it's a debatable topic. It's a hot topic. And I'll say this. If you had... there's a couple things I want to unwrap here. But if you had two people, regardless of gender, and they were the same weight class, you can make a case for that. But often you're not seeing that. What you're seeing is in EFEDing, you'll have a male wrestler who's 250 pounds and a female wrestler who's half of that weight, and they're having a match, and you have to suspend that disbelief that somebody of that size could consistently beat people who are twice their size. It's a spectacle to see once. It's, Rey Mysterio versus, one of the heavyweight guys. That's fun once in a while, but to see it every week and to, there's diminishing returns on an experience like that.
No comment.
And I may be just digging my own hole here, but on the other side of that, I would say that if you have somebody who's transgender and they want to work in a different division, I don't have any issue with that at all. I think you pick a division and then you work in that division, and it is what it is. Just the consistent intergender matches, I think, are a tough sell for some people.
Well, I mean, I can see it either way. Again, I go back to it. This isn't real. What we're doing is not real. So at the end, it doesn't matter. Is it going to change the game one way or another? The answer to that question is no. Because if someone says yes, I just want to deal with women only and strictly a female roster, okay, a Fed pops up, or you go there's Feds out there. If the answer is no, there's Feds out there. So, reality, it doesn't. The entire to me, the entire tweet is moot. The point's moot.
Well, it should be a situation where if somebody feels that way, that should be okay. But if somebody doesn't feel that way, that should also be okay.
Sure, express your opinion, but we don't have to be in all up in people's faces with it.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Be
Like,
respectable.
I don't know.
Be
I didn't
respectful.
follow it.
If other people don't agree with you on the way that your Fed should run, that's okay. They can have whatever opinions they want. There's no reason to ostracize people because they haven't bought into your style. And it's not right for me to tell people how they should run their Fed or what they should have. I just know what my personal preference is, as they do as well. And I think it's good to have some variety. So it's good to have some Feds where you do that have that division, like Sin City Wrestling has separate divisions, right? They have their Bombshell division, and they have I don't know what they call the men's division, but they do have separation there. And there are some people who just don't like the idea of their creation committing violence against women, whether it's sport or not. It's just not something they're comfortable with, and you have to respect that as well. So it's kind of an unwinnable conversation. If somebody feels strongly about it, like it's just not going to go well.
That's something you just don't have, like
Yep.
it's one of those. To me it's a trap question, because you're bound to offend somebody with your answer either way, in character or out of character.
So it struck a chord with me, and I felt a need to defend it because the conversation was started maybe a day after This Is Awesome Promotions put out their women's championship, right? So at the Denzel Porter Invitational, there was a 5-way match for the women's championship. Jessie Lee of Action Wrestling is the one that picked up the strap. And there's going to be a men's championship that happens on the Carnage Carnival in a couple months here through Splat's Super Show. And for me, it was a case of I can have 2 champions that are equals, a men's and a women's. You pick a division. You can compete in one or the other, but not both. And you can't switch. So that was the goal. And then the tweet comes out, and it automatically felt like taking a shot at what we had just celebrated with the DPI, which is unfortunate because the DPI is supposed to be a celebration of wrestling. And then to immediately dismiss and diminish what somebody had accomplished there it just kind of sucks. So I was probably in my feels when I responded to it, and this may be a knee-jerk reaction even bringing it up. But I just hope that people explore their hobby and write their product any way that they want to, and that they're respectful of how other people do it as well.
Well, the bottom line's this. Again, didn't see the tweet. I personally haven't really been on Twitter a whole hell of a lot, and it's been that way for a hot little minute. Not since it's probably been like 6 months since I was really gung ho following everything. But now I've learned over the course of time to really limit what I choose to take in and what I don't. In situations like that, that's a non-winnable bait. And you probably were in your feels when you answered it, because you did just come off of what you felt like was something else. But at the end of the day, what I've learned is you can't take shit personally. There's probably a handful of people in this game know you personally, and there's a plethora that know me personally. And so if you don't know me personally or they don't know you personally, don't give them that power. That's just kind of where it's at. Don't give them the power.
Yeah, it's hard to resist when you feel like you need to defend what somebody else has done.
That's what they want, though. Like,
That's what
ultimately,
gets you.
that's what people want in that situation. Yeah. They want you to defend it. They want to make something bigger. They want to make a mountain out of a molehill. And when that mentality clicks in and it starts to grow the movement, the herds start coming in, you're then facing a massively unwinnable battle, because it doesn't matter what you say or what you do. And that's just it sucks to see that sometimes. But
yeah. So in summary,
No.
I'd like to say congratulations to Jessie Lee, who won that 5-way match and did a hell of a role play. She just narrowly edged out Selena Frost, Zara Ivory, Crystal Caldwell, and Brittany Helms in that match. And all 5 of them showed up for the match, and they all wrote their ass off. So they should all be proud of what they accomplished there, and I applaud them. And each one of them is
Can I
going
say something about Brittany?
Yeah,
Can I
go
say something
ahead.
about Brittany real quick? That was
Yeah.
like her second role played match in I don't know how long. Yeah. So stuff like that should be discussed and talked about. Because here's a handler and here's a character who hasn't actively role played, done a lot of angled stuff, and came out and tried. Come out and put out some work. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it's not. This is someone who hasn't stepped out of that shell in such a long time, and to know that they had a good time doing it. That's what EFEDing is all about, not the bullshit that floats in cyberspace. That's the stuff that needs to be celebrated because someone's coming out of their comfort zone and trying something different with 4 other people, 5 if you include Sauce, who put your concept in your match. It's trying something different. Isn't that what we all talk about? Is trying different and putting yourself out there? Here's a prime example of it. I think that the handler had a good time doing it. I know that they tweeted out something and I answered it as Paige. It's one of the few things that I answered last week or the week before last. About Tough Break, and I liked it, and then had a little small discourse about it and carried on. So that's what the game's about, and that's what should be applauded. And to the new champion, shout out. It's a big thing.
So each of them is being invited back to the World Series of Wrestling back in October. So they're all going to come back. That event is a co-ed event, men versus women in that event. So, just a little bit different. So it's not a case of me being steadfast against it. It's just in one circumstance, it makes sense to have intergender matches, and in another, we chose not to do it. So I hope that people look at it that way and see it as kind of a selective marketing approach to a title versus a moral or ethical decision like, no, I don't stand by this. So that's so we'll see them again soon. So this has been EFED News. I am the Sauce Boss, and my co-host for this evening has been the handler of Chris Page. Chris, anything else you want to say before we sign off here?
No, man. Let's run it back tomorrow. Appreciate you guys listening, and if you haven't liked and subscribed, I strongly suggest you do so right about now.
That's right. So from Over the Top and EFED News, thanks for coming around. Be excellent to each other, and we'll see you tomorrow.